Hey boys and girls, Jim here once again. Welcome into Guest Blade episode number 29. And a very special Guest Blade. Well, really they're all special, aren't they? But this one's actually going to be kind of interesting because this is not a Guest Blade knife from another collector, which is typically what I do. For the second time now, I'm going to be showing you guys a knife directly from the maker. And this took a lot of coordination to make happen because this knife is already sold. Luckily, the collector that bought it through the auction that Dave was running was kind enough to allow Dave to still send it to me, and then I'll be sending it to him out of the country. So we get a chance to look at a very, very rare knife. What you're looking at is a Curtis Knives, Dave Curtis, BMF. And yeah, it really lives up to the name, or at least the name that you think it has. You think you know what BMF stands for. It's actually Battle Master Folder. Now, in my opinion, that's just Dave being somewhat politically correct. We all know it should stand for Bad Motherfucker, or Big Motherfucker, or Bad Mother Folder. I don't know. Big Mother Flipper. You guys can come up with your own names, I'm sure. Now, the genesis of this goes back a few years. You can start looking and kind of Google it, and you'll find a couple of examples. I know Vince over at Fort Henry Knives had one or two that he sold. Our good buddy Vance Rhodes had a very rare model. It was the BMF XL, so it was even larger than this. And those are the only ones I've ever seen. And I came across a picture of the one that Vince had. And about a year or so ago, I started bugging Dave. I'm like, dude, you really need to make the BMF again. You really need one because I really need one. And he's like, no. I've got my plate full with the F3s and some other stuff. And I'm going to do some runs of nanos here and there. I just don't have time to do it. Now, I'm not saying I'm the reason that this came back, but I'm certain that I'm one of the very few people that have contacted Dave and said, you really, really need to make this knife again. So here's the deal. Before we get into the knife and get you to falling in love with it, Dave has already told me specifically on this, it's going to be a super rare bird. He may make 5 or 6 in the next year, and that's it. Like I said, this one's already sold, so it's not up for grabs. If I were you, and this is the knife that you've been wanting for a while, or you discovered it here and you really want it, you really need to contact him quickly and get on the list because, like I said, he's only going to make 5 or 6 for all of 2014, and that's it because he has a lot of other stuff that he's doing. And I'm going to give you some Curtis Knives news here toward the end as well. But let's get into this knife. First off, you will see that it is a monster titanium frame with incredible work throughout. There is the Curtis Knives Crosshairs logo, nice and three-dimensional. I love the precision in which he makes his stuff. It's just incredible. Now, I'm going to warn you right off the bat as we're getting into this that I'm going to be somewhat biased. I love Curtis Knives. I consider Dave a friend. He's a buddy. So, yeah, I'm probably going to be a little bit biased. But honestly, on this knife, it doesn't really matter if you're biased or not. It is just, well, it is a bad motherfucker. Everything he did on this looks incredible. You can tell he put a lot of time, a lot of effort, and a lot of work into it. So there are your 6AL 4V titanium handles done in a very rich bronze anodize. You'll see hues of purples and golds coming through as well. An enormous titanium backspacer. And what he's done, he's actually created kind of an optical illusion where the backspacer looks bigger than it is because he's milled the lines into the titanium sides coming right out of the backspacer. So it looks like one piece. This almost looks like an integral knife. When you hold it from a distance, you just barely see the division of parts there. He did a really nice job smoothing everything out where it all lines up properly. It feels good. This has a really nice texture, this ridge back that he's got going on here. Very, very nice texture. You'll see he's got a very articulated flipper tab here with some nice jimping across the front face of it. There is the legendary spot pivot. Now remember, this is not just a pivot. Now, number one, it is a bearing system pivot, and you'll see right back there, IKBS. So you've got your bearings around the pivot. It is a monster size pivot. It's also going to act as your over travel prevention as well. And it's got your internal blade stops for open and closed positions built in. So this one little area right here is doing 3 jobs. And that's what I've said about the F3s. It's ingenious, and I love the way that he's done that. All right, let's take a look at the pocket clip. Nicely done there. Really matches with the theme. This is a holy knife. It's a holy BMF. Lots of holes running through. Now for the part that you've all been waiting for. Yeah. Massive, 220 thou thick S30V steel blade. He's done a really nice job of creating a tapered look going down. Really, really nice compound grind. Did a great job on this. Massive cutting edge on this. Obviously, I have not cut anything with it, so I can't tell you how sharp it is. But I've never really received a dull knife from Dave. Haven't heard of anybody else that did either. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. Nice clean stone wash. This was a knife that was really intended to use, more so than just sit in a display case. So he's got a nice working finish throughout the entire knife. Now let's talk about the ergonomics. When you first look at this, you might be thinking, man, that is an unwieldy bastard. But I gotta tell you, with the way that he's done the reliefs here for your fingers, it feels really nice. Now my hand is only a little bit cramped between here and here because this really is a fighter style knife where the butt end does come up and around your pinky. So anybody with a larger hand than mine, I wear a size large glove, might feel a little cramped in there, but this is actually a nice feeling for me. I like that a lot. He's given you a nice big choil relief here and a thumb depression here so you can choke up on the blade and do some more, fine cutting tasks there with a little bit more precision. The action is really nice because you've got to realize you've got a very thick, heavy, massive blade here, and the action really is nice. Now, it's also obviously not broken in. I really haven't fondled this knife a lot or played with it a lot because, again, as I said, it's not my knife to do that with, but I'm sure the new owner won't mind me breaking it in just a little bit. So it's got a nice action out of the box. Let's give you some size comparisons here because I think you might be getting the wrong idea on what the size of the knife really is. So let's do this first. Let's leave it closed. Let's bring out some I don't want to say common knives, but commonly sized knives. Here it is up against a Chris Reeve Umnumzan. Now as you see, it is huge in the height as compared to really what is a typical size for a folding knife today. Put it up next to a 4-inch Olamic Wayfarer flipper. And you see we're starting to get really comparable in the length. Okay, so it's making you think you got a big, fat, thick, heavy, and 4-inch blade. It's still quite a bit taller. You can kind of do this. Yeah, see it is still quite a bit taller. And now, of course, what really might be the best comparison up against a Medford Praetorian. Now we're starting to get dimensionally the same almost all the way around, but you see that the Curtis is still going to be a bit longer. So we kind of put that butt to butt, and you'll still see, well, from the camera angle here, you really can't see it, but the Curtis is just a hair longer and still a little bit taller. Now here's where the optical illusion really comes in. Let's get this open. The first thing we'll do is we'll put it up against the Umnumzan, and you'll see that, oh, well, the length is just about identical. This looked like it was dwarfing the Reeve. Now we'll put it up next to The Olamic, now you remember when they were closed, they looked identical. The Olamic is a 4-inch blade. You get the Olamic out and you realize, the Curtis is actually a shorter blade. Then you get that out of there, put it up next to the Praetorian. Yeah. It's not as long as you originally thought. As a matter of fact, I do believe, now I was hoping I had my tape measure here, but I don't. It is just a touch above 3.5 inches. That doesn't sound right, does it? It's a wonderful optical illusion. So what you've actually got is a knife that is easy to carry, at least in the length of the knife. So if you're wearing jeans that have maybe shorter pockets, you wouldn't have much of a concern stuffing this in there. Now, where some people may have an issue is with this height. It is very tall and it's very, very thick. It's also very, very heavy. This has got to be over 8 ounces. It really is quite heavy. But for those guys that are really into the overbuilt knives right now, and we all know that it's the big rage, you know, Crusader Forge and Direware and Medford, it really is a big thing. This is one of the nicest overbuilt flippers that you're going to get your hands on. Now, these are not going to go cheap, by the way. You need to keep that in mind. If you're one of the 5 or 6 people this next year in 2014 that are going to be getting one of these, you're going to be spending in the range of about $1,500. So please do keep that in mind. You are buying into a lot of titanium, a lot of S30V steel, and a lot of time. I don't know exactly how long it took Dave to build this, but I remember watching the work in progress pictures as they were coming up, and it seemed to take quite a while because he really did take on a little bit of a different approach on these new ones from how he did the originals. Man, there is something about holding this thing that makes you feel the need to own it. Is it going to be practical for most people? Oh, hell no. But that's what the F3s are for. That's what the Cruise Evos are for. It's not going to be a gentleman's folder. It's not going to be a little hideaway. That's what the Nano is for. This is his wicked, crazy, slightly insane, wickedly designed BMF. It's not meant to be practical. This thing can be used as a weapon without ever deploying, without ever opening that blade. You just bash somebody over the back of the head. Oh, man. Let's take a look at the lockup here. Nice and clean, and we're looking at about, I'm going to take it out of frame here for a second to get a better look. Looks like it's about 25% lockup if I'm not mistaken. The contouring of the titanium feels fantastic. One of the things that's become a huge pain in the ass to me lately with some knives that I've purchased or I've reviewed is the makers not leaving enough relief on this presentation side of the titanium to access the lock bar. Here there's no problem whatsoever. You see I've got plenty of thumb sitting on there. And the other thing is they're not rounding it off, so it's actually painful on a couple of knives. There's one I got recently that I actually just do not like disengaging the lock on my knife. This one, fantastic. Feels great. The contouring all the way around. This is actually a soft, pleasant knife to hold in the hand. It looks like a big mean brute, and it looks like something that, I don't know, that would be unwieldy, that would be uncomfortable, maybe cumbersome to have with you, but I gotta tell you, it's not. The diamond texture that's been done here on the frame, everything's rounded off. So you've got a little bit of tactility to it, but you don't have something that's abrasive. You can take this in and out of your pocket all day long, and this is not going to tear up your jeans. Oh my God, I just looked at that lock bar cutout. How friggin' hard was that to do? Wow. Really, really nicely done. I like this interface here too. Instead of just leaving that open, most makers would have never done this. They would have left that wide open, but you'll notice how the frame comes around the pivot and comes around the lock bar. He didn't just make a straight cutout. This extra little cut here really does make it special. And for a lefty, you're going to have the same degree of comfort because you have the same finger reliefs on both sides. There is that chunky backspacer. Let's take a look at the alignment while we have that angle there. That is almost dead nut center. Actually, I believe it is. This thing is gorgeous from every angle. This may not be the practical knife to carry with you every single day, but the days that you can carry a larger, heavier knife, can you think of many that are more impressive and more unique looking than this? I mean, this is bordering on an art knife without suffering impracticality in order to be artistic. You've got something that every component, there's something pleasing to the eye. Obviously, Dave's pivots, everybody loves Dave's pivot. It looks great. And it's still functional. You know, it may look all fancy and custom and this and that, but you could still put a flathead screwdriver in there. Yeah. So you can make the adjustments you need to make, no matter what. All of the design work out of the titanium looks great. The scallops, another pleasing area to the eye. The anodizing, how it shifts from bronze to gold to purple. The three-hole design here with the crosshairs in the middle. The massive hardware. Holy shit. You know, I think that's bigger than the hardware that Medford's using. Damn. You are getting a stout boy right here. Lanyard opening here for those of us that like to use lanyards on certain knives. I just noticed that the tail end is actually tapered as well. I didn't see that on first glance here under the lens. So it tapers inward and tapers upward. A lot of work was put into this. Great contouring on the frame, the way it's rounded out. You've got a nice palm swell there. Pocket clip looks great. Huge hardware, huge screws on the pocket clip as well. The blade looks great when it's closed and looks great when it's open. So there's not a single part of this knife that doesn't grab your attention. Even if it's a design that's not for you, that you go, well, that's not really my style. You look at it and go, there's not a dull area here. There's something for your eye to be attracted to absolutely everywhere. Cool compound grind. There is Dave's logo. Now listen, this may be just more wild than most people need, but that's the cool thing. Dave doesn't make a lot of stuff like this. The F3s are right now his mainstay. The Cruise Evo is just doing huge right now, and I'm going to be reviewing one of those here in one of my next upcoming videos as well. The Nano is going back in production. They are coming very, very soon. I promise you guys a little bit of news at the end. So yes, if you want a Nano, you need to email Dave right away and say, put me down for a Nano or two, because you know he only does maybe a run a year, and that's it. And they come and they go, and they make their way to certain dealers, and you'll pay an extra $75 or $100 for it. You can just order one direct. And you know he is doing a lot of crazy custom stuff lately. Not just in his finishes, but especially in the Nanos. He does a lot of cool custom sculpting. You know, he does that Punisher skull. He's done all kinds of crazy shit. So if you want a Nano, get in on that. The F3s are going to be coming back in a new Wharncliffe. Yes, an F3 Wharncliffe. And the initial ones that they made used the same blade stock as these. I think they were 220. Yeah, they were 220 thou. Now, I don't know if they're all going to be that way, but he is doing a run, a very small run in the Warrencliffs. He's also experimenting with hormones. If you haven't looked at either his Facebook or his Instagram account, go do that and you'll see the hormones that he's been working on. Very, very nicely done. And he actually experimented on a couple of the F3 Warrencliffs. So, yeah, they looked badass. So keep your eyes peeled, guys. Dave is not resting at all. Actually, the guy never seems to ever take a break. He doesn't go to shows. He'd rather sit in his workshop and work and get everything done and over with. And I will tell you this. You're going to see a backup in 2014 on Dave's work. If you want to get something, get it ordered, because there's going to be a period of time, it could be 4 months, it could be 6 months, that Dave is not going to be making anything. Now, that's just my little wink, wink, nudge, nudge to you. This is not something that everybody knows about. So, again, if you want to get an order in, you better do it very quickly. So, to the new owner, congratulations, man. You got one hell of an amazing piece. This was actually going to be mine after all my begging and pleading, but unfortunately, Dave finished it the week I got back from the New York show, and I spent all my play money. Spent it all, man. I said, oh, damn, I'm just going to have to pass for now. I am going to have one of these. I tell you right now, I will be one of those 5 or 6. Because after handling it, it's just too cool not to have. All right, guys, I'm going to get out of here for now. I'm going to get to another guest blade here very shortly on a very, very high-end custom Cruise Evo from Dave that he sent along with this in a rare rare liner lock with lightning strike carbon fiber and an awesome Damascus blade. I'll see you guys then.